Hello, Internet.
Wow.
We are joined today by a very special guest, Kit Langton, who is the author of the very popular effect visualizer that made its way around Twitter a little while ago. So Kit is joining us today as a curious and excited community member. He's going to kind of act as a little bit of my foil while we're building this GitHub action and try to make sure that I'm explaining things properly, ask questions, challenge assumptions, etc. So,
all right, let's start. What's GitHub? What is it? What is actions? What's the concept of an action?
What is GitHub? Yeah. Good question. Yeah, so we are going to be working on a GitHub action today for effect. So most of you folks probably know we're working on the 4.0 version of effect. And we are tracking a lot more information about the changes that we make to the code base now than we were before, namely things like bundle size and making sure that relevant pieces of code have comments attached to them, etc. And so, like joining the chat and announcing that he's the boss. Anyway, so we are going to be kind of seeing if we can take some of the hacky stuff that we have in the 4.0 repository right now and unify it into a reusable GitHub action. So maybe I'll share my screen and we can take a look at like where I think we could potentially start. So let me share my screen. I think it's this one. Hang on one second. Let me open a tab so that we can.
Where do we usually peruse if any people do interact with us? Is it on it'll just show up here in this Riverside chat, or do people?
Yeah, you can either check out.
Where's this going? Are we going to all platforms? Are we on LinkedIn right now? Are we live on Twitch? I haven't streamed in a while. I don't know how.
We are streaming to X and to Twitch at the moment under my handle on Twitch and to the Effect X account.
Cool.
But you can either track chat in Riverside or you can track it from my stream. Either way is fine.
Cool.
So, anyways, this effect small is the affectionately named code base that we're using to develop.
Affectionately, I see what you did there.
I knew you'd pick up on it. To develop like all the 4.0 features and whatnot. And if you look at any of the PRs that we've opened or recently closed, this one was actually contributed by Kit. You'll see that we have some GitHub actions running against the code base. In particular, I'm very interested in seeing whether or not we can take this bundle size analysis and convert it from the very hacky inline YAML bash script that I have and turn it into a proper GitHub action.
Because, I made no difference. It's here in facts, quantitatively proven. Finally, I had a hunch this was the case.
Quantitatively proven that Kit's PR made no difference. Indeed. But yeah, like right now, this is basically just an inline shell script here in the check action, which is pretty awful. It uses awk to do a bunch of like parsing and calculations, and yeah, I want to like take this and turn it into a proper GitHub action that we can then develop over time. So, right now the bundle size part is what I'm interested in, but we could add like some of the other actions that we're running right now to that to the GitHub action that we're developing. Because I think Mike recently added the JS doc analysis script, or maybe this was Claude in concert with Mike adding this script. But anyways, yeah, I think starting here is a good place to start. And then this GitHub action could like grow over time to be like all of our package automation scripts.
Amazing. What, maybe we'll get to this in a moment, but what are you thinking the high level sort of architecture of this is? We're going to use effect. What is the output here? Like a little script that we're going to run? How are we going to integrate this with GitHub Actions? If you have any idea of how this should work. I haven't done too much complicated GitHub Action business recently.
I think I'm not 100% sure. I think if I can get a GitHub action together that like sort of just literally replicates this for now, I'd be happy. Because then we can build on it over time. But the point of it is, the bundle size is one thing that we're tracking. And feel free to tell me if I'm not answering your question. But bundle size is one thing we're tracking. But I think because we're trying to make the 4.0 code base more like ingestible and compatible with AI, we're also tracking like whether or not things are documented. So like running this through the action as well would be useful. This way, like we can basically in the workflows, instead of having to like edit a bash script in YAML, we can like have all the configs just specified here for the stuff we want to run. I don't know.
Sure, it's no, I think so. Yes, currently the inline awk is a bit awkward. Apparently, awk doesn't stand for awkward, but it stands for the first letters of the three names of its creators, of their last names, which is weird. But so the idea would be, instead of having a manual inline bash script, which yes isn't terribly pleasant to read, we could instead have a reference to a separately hosted GitHub action that would do all this stuff for us. Like what would change in this YAML file? I forget exactly how to connect. Maybe this is part of our research and you don't know off the top of your head, but it would be like uses actions / effect action thing.
Yeah, the idea is like we could host it however we want. You can so it would be a separate package under the effect org, right?
Okay.
Totally separate package. And you can either with GitHub Actions, I think that the easiest way to distribute the actions are either by building the binary and including it, not binary, but building the executable and including it in the repository itself, which is actually how one of the other GitHub actions we use is Smart. Tim Smart. One of the other GitHub actions we use regularly in the
look at that contribution graph. That was beautiful. It's like a verdant green rolling hills.
Yeah, really. Tim is very active. One of the other GitHub actions that we use in the effect org is Tim's next release action. This is kind of how we're able to have separate releases for like minor. I think this is how we have separate releases for like the minor and everything like that. So he's got, in this particular setup, he's building the distributable and including it directly in the repository. So it's like a huge file, like a 3.14 meg file. The other way you can do it is have a Docker file and build the Docker file, publish it to GitHub Container Registry, and then do it that way. So I was going to basically do exactly what Mike is saying in chat. I want to build the action with effect CLI. I want to distribute it via a Docker image, an OCI container image, instead of bundling it directly with the code here. And the reason for that versus like just building the dist and having it here is because I already know from having experimented with this in the past that some of the libraries we'll need to use don't play very nicely with creating a single executable like this. Namely, I forget what library I was building or was. I forget. Let me pull up the old code base that I was working on a while back. No,
Cool. Yeah, I mean, but that was the gist of my question. It was a boring logistical question, which is yes, how do we package up this GitHub action at the end? But it makes sense that, not to sort of couple it all together and have it be a big messy blob, but to sort of abstract it as a CLI and possibly internally to that CLI, a service, perhaps.
Well, definitely a service.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably package all the different components of this into different services that will just connect together. But this is the old code base I had worked on a while back, and I can't remember exactly what the problem was, but I remember maybe it was Rollup was giving me an issue. I don't know, something trying to use TSUp to bundle all this together. So TSUp Kit is a tool that allows you to, under the hood, it uses a tool called ESBuild, which like kind of takes all the code that you've written and bundles it into a single JavaScript file. You can configure it, but the default is to do that. It takes all the code, minifies it, strips out all the dead code, and like puts it into a single JavaScript file that you can run. But I was having trouble with that with this particular code base. That's why I decided to go the Docker image route. But we can challenge assumptions and do whatever we want. I just want to get started setting up the project, and then we kind of go from there.
We should write it in Zig. Oh wait.
Oh wait. This is a stream about effects.
Damn it. Okay, never mind. Not that assumption. All right.
So this was previously called package metrics action. So maybe we can do the same, and maybe we can move package metrics action to package metrics action nulls. Then I can make their package metrics action, and then we can open up NeoVim, and you can tell me if we're going to need cbucks new versions package metrics action.
And just to briefly contextualize my feeble-brained commentary and questions, I come from the world of Scala and Zio, maybe the predecessor, some parallel world version of Effect and TypeScript, and I'm sort of lost. I don't know how I came up here. I don't have much memory, but I don't know so much TypeScript. I've mucked around. I've obviously made some websites, but I've not gone deep. So I'm going to ask a lot of stupid questions and hopefully be a good proxy for the feeble-brained audience members as well. So this is my authentic confusion. We decided to go live, so
now we're live. There's
no
turning back.
There's no turning back. I'm exposed.
So we're going to take a few moments and just set up like some basic stuff on the project. I'm going to bring over just like a bunch of like configs from the small repository. So yeah, first we'll need a Blake, and we use Nix pretty heavily to kind of abstract away all the dependencies we need for local development. For most of our projects, it's pretty lightweight. We just create a Nix flake that literally just pulls in in most cases, we just need core pack and node 24, and that's enough. But basically, this allows us to build a development shell that has Node.js in it, and core pack, which is a tool that allows us to install the package manager of choice that we want.
Amazing.
So we can do like a core pack use PMP. Oh, I have to do it during. Wow. And the .envrc is a separate file related to Nix that allows you to, like, when you enter this directory in a shell, if you like whatever directives you've specified in the envrc, get executed by direnv to do different things. So like one of the things that it does, let me move you over to a different window so I can stop having to do that. One of the things that this does is allows you to kind of say use as a direnv directive, and it use Flake basically says, hey, go to the Flake, use the default dev shell, and it installs everything that you need. So
Michael heckles that now it's a Nix stream. Zig would have been better.
Zig would have been better. Yeah, Mike has a love-hate relationship with the Nix.
Yeah, I did notice it when I used Create Effect app, and it said, "Want to use the Nix Flake?" And I said, no, I don't know. I used to have dandruff, so the word flake just is sort of disgusting to me. So, but I get it's more of a snowflake situation. So this is kind of optional, right? I mean, it's your developer setup. Maybe it's the recommended developer setup, but I've gotten away with not using it so far. It's just that this basically makes it easy to anyone could CD into this, download it, and have the right version of Node. There aren't going to be weird incompatibilities. They're not going to have to change their Node or other versions, right? It sort of just makes it deterministic.
Yeah, this is like an optional thing for people. If you have Nix on your machine, hey Mattia, how's it going? And I missed MSPS, your message. Hello. I hope everybody's having a good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Yeah, Nix just basically makes it much easier to not have to worry about system dependencies. For our projects, though, if you have PNPM and Node on your machine, you're pretty much set. You don't really need anything else. But sometimes, like projects, like for example, if you have like a Rust project or a Go project, and you need like a lot of system dependencies on your machine, like a particular C compiler or I don't know, certain binaries that are required on the system to compile a particular project you're working on, Nix can be really useful for that. Can also be really useful for building said projects. But for our purposes, we literally just use Nix for the local development setup. Literally to get a development shell that has Node in it. Because if you see now I have Node in my shell, right? But if I were to open up a different like shell on my machine, new window,
you would have no Node.
And I CD to home. I don't have Node on my machine at all. So,
wow.
Shocking.
That's a magic trick. So sorry, I may have blinked and missed something. So you have the nvenv set up here. You have the direnv file. If I were to clone this and just, I have installed Nix, go to their website, install brew, install Nix, something, whatever I have to do with the curl, sh pipe curl. What do you have to run a command to get this to work, or is it that as long as you have direnv and like what are the prerequisites for getting this to automatically work? Just like briefly.
Yeah, if you have Nix and direnv on your machine, all you have to do is change directory in your shell to this project, or open it up in VS Code to this particular thing with the direnv extension installed. All you have to do is open the project, and direnv will take care of setting up the dev shell for you. So that in your shell, you'll have all the dependencies you need.
Okay, cool.
Clear.
And this pattern is followed in many of the Effect open source libraries.
I think every single one of our projects has a dev shell set up. So if you're using Nix, you don't have to worry about like system dependencies.
Cool.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I'm just thinking it might be nice to add that to some docs somewhere, like the really quick version of, I don't want to understand Nix deeply, but what do I need to install so that everything just works?
So basically, like if you don't have Nix installed, and if you install these two things, then you're fine. And Corepack ships with Node. We just include it as a separate package here because I don't know why, but like I'm pretty sure you can remove this and reload the Flake and it'll still work. There's a reason why we have this here. I just don't remember what it is. But Corepack, I think, ships with Node, but maybe not. Maybe not with Node 24.
It's Chesterton's Corepack. Don't remove it.
Oh yeah, Mike reminded me it's being removed from the Node core, so that's why we've like sort of started to specify it separately now. Cool. So Corepack is a way for you to specify and install the package manager of choice. So by default with Node, you get npm, Node package manager, but there's like npm sort of leaves a lot to be desired. So we tend to use pnpm, which is another package manager for Node. So if you say core pack use pnpm, core pack will install the latest pnpm into the project, and it'll create a package JSON for us that specifies this package manager. And then we can maybe add a name, add effect, package, metrics, action. And I think that'll be good for the moment. So yeah, when we said core pack use pnpm, it created the package JSON and the pnpm lock file for us. And again, for Kit, you probably already know this, but the package JSON is kind of where all your main project configuration goes, like your dependencies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan, welcome to the stream. So anyways, got these two things set up. Now we can start working on some of the other like ancillary things we need to set up. So we want to have nice formatting by default. So I'm going to go ahead and I know this is like somewhat controversial, but we still like to use ESLint.
Okay, explain to me the controversy. I'm not in this battle. Get me up to date on local politics. What's the deal? Who will I piss off by not criticizing?
It's not really so much like who you're going to piss off. It's more like I think a lot of folks are really excited about other alternatives to ESLint, such as like Biome or there's another one that is like, I think Biome's like the more like flavor of the month popular one at the moment that a lot of folks are using. It's very performant, it's minimal configuration, that sort of thing. But the problem with Biome is that it's opinionated. It's getting better. Like you can provide your own configs that you want, like, and specify like specific granular configuration through other stuff. But like I think the reason why folks have been wanting and moving away from ESLint is because in general it's slower than like other linters, formatters, whatever. And ESLint is a linter, but you can use formatters through ESLint so that like when you save a file, you'll get all like the lint diagnostics, and it'll also like format on save. So we develop our own ESLint plugin that uses a formatter called dprint, which is written in Rust, and is very fast. And we like dprint because, right? Dprint is written in Rust. Mike can correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, dprint is very fast, and what we like about dprint is that it has context-aware spacing, which sounds like really dumb, but like if you have a particular way that you like to visualize pieces of code, like for example, for pipelines in effect, like if you have a pipe with like 3 statements in vertical order, with certain formatters, if you hit save, it automatically flips them up onto one line if it fits. Yeah. Right. We like the ability to force certain spacing when necessary, and that's why we like dprint, because like you can do that sort of context-aware formatting. Okay, if it's a pipe, flatten it onto different lines, or not expand it, whatever. Rotate it. Cool. And that makes total sense. So just it's more customizable. Maybe Biome one day will be the standard, but yeah, I mean, there's a million ways. What I know about TypeScript and JavaScript, there's even more ways to do things than even Scala, especially when it comes to libraries that are popular. So that makes sense. This works better for us for now. What about 6412 says he just uses, or he or she just uses Dino. Since it comes to like not to get into every single possible build configuration and actually get to the content eventually, but I'm very curious about this because there's Bun, there's Dino, there's Node, there probably are other things, there's Zig. No, it's different. But what's do you obviously the create effect app I think uses Node. I'm guessing that's just the standard. It's been around for the longest, but any can you go wrong by picking a different option? No, Effect will work with any runtime, and we have specific platform packages for all the runtimes. I think it's a matter of preference. we develop in Node because it's been around the longest, and most like Bun tries to have compatibility with Node and whatnot. So we just develop in Node because that's what we're the most comfortable with, and it's been around the longest. But Effect will work no matter what. Sorry, I'm just installing all of these ESLint plugins from the small repo that we use. But yeah, I think it's a matter of preference, to be honest with you. I don't think there's like this is so much better than the others, right? Ethan makes a good point that Dino does ship with a lot of things out of the box. But there are other problems with Dino, right? Like it's deviated from the ecosystem in a lot of respects and whatnot. So like, ESLint, JS, add effect, ESLint plugin. I'm sure I'm missing a few ESLint programs.
To give you a Scala metaphor, there are two build systems. So there's SBT, the Scala build system, where actually it doesn't stand for anything anymore. And then there's mill. And by many accounts, mill is better. But I never really used it just because SBT works, and basically every company uses SBT, and it would just be a hassle. Yes, you get maybe a 30% boost in developer experience, but you sort of open yourself up to, I guess, once in a while, a configuration mismatch issue. And that, like, I'll do anything I can to avoid spending too much time configuring build tools. So just using the standard, the happy path, whatever, sounds like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think it's a matter of preference. I've used Bun for some projects recently, and I like Bun. I think that it's nice that you can get the Node compatibility when you want it. PNPM add actually, but yeah, I think it's totally a matter of preference. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer, to be honest with you. So just to kind of like recap what I was doing for a moment. This is our ESLint config from the 4.0 repo. It contains like kind of all of our standard ESLint configurations in a flat configuration format. So the new like ESLint config format, that's like flat structure. And if we scroll down a little bit, you'll end up at our specific plugin like configs. So our Effect ESLint plugin contains dprint by default, and we plug. This is basically like our formatting configuration. So like we run dprint through ESLint, so we don't have to run two tools independently. And this is the config that we use for running dprint.
Cool.
So I've installed TypeScript. I think I have all the ESLint packages I need. I have the ESLint config set up. The one thing I didn't do is we also in the small repo use a few local rules now that I think Julio developed. I think for schema. So I'm just going to plug those in as well. There's a plugin for ESLint that allows you to like define your own custom local rules. Sorry. Anyway, so we have those as well. So now I should be able to create rules. Why is this not? No big instance fields, local rules. Yes, not local rules. So I name this bad? No, that's fine. So this is like always the initial pain in the neck, and why I initially developed the whole Create Effect app thing, because I wanted to just be able to materialize projects for myself.
Okay, is that why didn't we use it this time, just to sort of go over that, or is it out of date, or is it not using the newest patterns?
It's pretty significantly out of date at the moment. It's my fault for letting it go out of date, but it needs a little bit of love. It's it just needs like a lot of work to get things up to date, get all the configs up to date, remove some of the issues that we have with peer dependencies. So I think Sebastian has it on his list of things that he needs to take care, or he wants to take care of. Not trying to put that on Sebastian, but I know he mentioned it to me. All right. Let's also add a .git ignore. And let's put the .direnv directory. So direnv will create like a directory locally with stuff in here. And we don't want to commit that to Git because it can get very big. And then we also want node modules in here, and probably also dist, because we'll probably publish to dist. Yeah. And now we can set up. Now we can set up a tsconfig. So I'm going to use the base. I'm going to use the base tsconfig from, again, the small repo. tsconfig.base.jsonc.
Also, if Sebastian doesn't have a chance to get to that or isn't interested in it, we could always, if people really like this setting up a project content, we could stream updating the create effect app repo.
I don't know. This stuff is always just so tedious to me. I'm happy to do it on Steam, but it's like so tedious. I don't know if folks like it, then I'm happy to, like I said, happy to work on it. But
no, I was being Kappa. Is that the word?
Okay, good.
Is that I looked that up.
Thank God.
I was Kappa-ing.
Thank God.
That's sarcasm, I think. Okay.
I'm going to grab this tsconfig. We don't really need like a base tsconfig, I'm realizing, because we're just building a single project. Everyday Max, let's go out of date. An Italiano disco song gets removed from Spotify. It's true. Do you guys use Determinate Systems Nix installer? I tried to use it, but never truly found a reason to use Nix. Is that my front door? Can you folks give me 1 second? I think my front doorbell just rang.
All right, now time to edit all the config. No, I can't. All right, NeoVim, beautiful. In Ghosty, man, this is a pretty setup. Look at that delicately flashing red light in the top left. What does that mean? Maybe that's his doorbell. Do you think he has a doorbell extension for NeoVim? Probably. Yeah, I'm allowed to leave finally.
Okay, sorry about that. Do I use the Determinate Systems Nix installer? Yes, I did. Then I switched back to the vanilla Nix installer. Now I want to switch back to the regular Determinate Nix installer. And the reason is long and winded, but the short version is I thought that the Determinate Nix installer did not support remote builders because the Determinate Nix installer takes over your machine's Nix config, so you can't specify on Mac. I don't know about on other platforms, but on Mac, you can't specify the Nix dot anything properties, I don't think. But then I had a quick conversation with Graham from Determinate Systems on Twitter or X, and he mentioned to me that you can set up remote builders. You just can't set up the Linux builder VMs on Mac OS. So I felt better after that. So I need to reinstall the Determinate Systems version because their version of Nix has a lot of cool stuff. All right, I'm going to use
Yeah, I don't know how I avoided Nix as a functional programmer person who gets. I must have. I don't know. I have a giant head that's easily nerd sniped, but for some reason I evaded that one.
So we need.
Yeah, I've never met a true evangelist in the flesh, so maybe you'll be my downfall, Maxwell.
We'll see. We will see. Oh yeah, that's right. The version of this project that I wrote with, like a while back, the first version of package metrics action, I was like experimenting with Node TypeScript support. So like running TypeScript files directly in Node, and I had like set up this. I'm just looking at the project off screen. I'm sorry, I should like pull it on screen. I was actually like, if you look at the Docker file from this old project, I was like running TypeScript files directly with Node because I wanted to experiment with this. So the TS config from this project actually like doesn't emit anything when you build it, which is cool. But I kind of want to compile this. So let me see.
And I think I know what that means, but could you clarify emitting versus non-emitting? Is that just outputting? It's sort of it's JSON output or TypeScript? I've seen ts.d files sometimes pollute my code base.
So that's a good question. Emitting in TypeScript means like when you run a build, when you run like a TSC build, emitting means you're like actually going to emit the JavaScript files that from the TypeScript files. Like you're going to build the TypeScript into JavaScript and emit those somewhere.
Sure.
Setting no emit to true means that you run the build, but you don't emit any TypeScript. Like you don't do the transpilation stuff.
Sure. You just type check and get type errors and then save that for the build step.
Right.
Cool.
So here, I have root dir set to source. I want out dir to be dist. I want the ts build info file to be. Can I put it in dist? .ts build info build.ts build info. Okay, we'll see if this works. And then we can do a npm add effect. And actually, since this is, what are we going to use to bundle this? TypeScript. So we'll just use namespace imports for now. So let's do. Wait a minute. Wait a second. tsconfig.json. Let's get rid of all of this. If you touch this, a puppy dies. Well, these comments are truly something. I'm ignoring Twitch chat at the moment. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's just chatting about Nix. You've opened Pandora's box.
That's what I do. Whoa!
Cool.
What the heck is this?
Oh, require. All right, CommonJS. Right? That's CommonJS?
What is this? Mike, help.
Should I use create effect?
I should actually just go to the effect language service and set it up properly instead of like fiddling. Compiler options.
But yeah, I definitely think this is a good motivation to have someone to demand it of the universe that create effect app is updated so that we
Yeah, this is probably the best motivation for me to be like, all right, we need to go update our CLI for creating these apps because this is just terrible. So why am I getting a weird target? Have AI do the job. Yeah. Node next, module detection forced. Use module interrupt false.
Do you use Claude Code on stream? Is that
Actually, you know what I'm going to do? IMAX 153 Twitch integration. I'm going to go to my Twitch integrations. And I am going to steal it. The whole...
have you built Twitch integrations with Effect as well?
Yeah. We are going to do this. We are going to emit this to dist. I don't think I need doc.
Anytime I've ever watched a Twitch coder, they've always been working on coding integrations for their Twitch. It always inevitably gets incredibly meta and involuted.
Yeah, no, I wrote a couple of Twitch integrations a while back with Effect. It was what I was developing on stream. But I just kept it really simple, so that's what we're going to do here. So then we're going to do import from effect gen function. We're just basically going to test very quickly. Promise yield effect.log. Hi there. Hit.
Oh, I was trying to wrangle my cat, but I failed.
What is the strings problem?
Extra line breaks.
We'll restart the LSP. This effect.gen contains a
That makes sense.
Statement. True.
Whoa.
I know. I'm kidding. Annoyed. Okay.
Extra white spaces right there. Okay.
Now it's fixed. And now we can do this. Just reorganize my package JSON really quick. And put a scripts. And go to my Twitch integrations and grab my builds.
Amazing.
Command.
When this is done, you'll have to remind me what we're building again.
But actually, though, I was using TSUp. That's why. Let's just do that.
I'll be right back. I have to free.
No problem. Let's do a pnpm add ts-d tsup and tsx. Let's add a tsup.config.ts. And we're just going to figure out how to use this. Source main package JSON, Twitch integrations, package JSON. We're going to grab these two scripts. npm build.
Ads. They're ads. Damn
there
ads. All right. We're going to be rich.
Yeah. Okay. So I decided to just pivot and use TS up to avoid all of the annoying stuff. So where's my no emit? Yeah, no emit is in here. Great. Okay. Why did it build? Oh yeah, because TS up is now configured to emit to the dist directory. And maybe we can look at what Tim's next release action does. So he's got a good TS up config in here. We're going to take this, paste it in here, change this to main. I don't think we need any externals right now. Okay. So now if we build, we should get a source map file and a regular one, and we should be able to run node dist main.js. Hi there, Kit. And since we're using node 24, I wonder if node source. Interesting. It does indeed work. But anyways, so that's good. Now we can start actually working on the project. So
all right.
To remind everybody what we spent the last hour working up towards. Our goal is to build a GitHub action for our small repository that basically replicates what we're already doing with like awkward inline shell scripts. Mike, as long as you use .ts and imports and node namespaces stuff, it works well with node directly. Interesting. All right. Well, I'm not going to tweak configs that much more right now. I want to get into like some code, but maybe I'll set that up when we build this into an image. So anyways, the goal is to try to accomplish all of this with like effect code directly. So my thought process here is to start with the specific part of our workflow where we emit the bundle size analysis. So we have like in the small repo, we have this bundle directory right now, which is where we put like just simple scripts that allow us to compute a bundle size off of it and like make sure that we're not adding too much to like the bundle. It also allows us to see like when we use additional modules on top of just basic features, for example, like streaming. Where's a good example of streaming? When we use effect and stream, it's also useful for us to see like, okay, if I'm just using effect by itself, where it's about 5.5 kilobytes of bundle. If I add streaming, we only add 2 kilobytes, which is pretty like amazing when you consider that this is absolutely not the case in the current version of effect, where using stream can add like, depending on what features you're using, it can add quite a substantial amount of bundle. Like I've seen cases where using basic features of effect plus stream plus schema can cause your like bundle just from effect to approach like close to 100K of code.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, you're doing like a lot with those libraries, and it probably does amortize over time. I mean, we've seen that with folks who have written like kind of blog posts about using effect on the front end and how they were able to strip out a lot of dependencies over time because they were just available with effect. But having the ability to integrate effect into your front end in 4.0 and just like not have to worry about bundle, I think is even more compelling. So if you're using like effect basic features with streaming with schema now, I mean, where's like the most substantial like bundle here? Like HTTP client uses all of those things, and it's less than 17K, right? So like we're really trying to focus on bundle size for 4.0 so that we can start working on also making Effect. It is usable on the front end right now. People are using it to, no pun intended, great effect. But the bundle size is what people have in their minds when they're using Effect on the front end. And so we're trying to basically take that out of the equation.
And Mike qualifies that HTTP client isn't even optimized yet. So you'll get even teens here.
It's already faster than it is in 3.0 though. I think Tim, the most recent work he did on HTTP client, sped it up by about, so when you use it in 4.0, it's about 2 times faster already. I think that's HTTP API, not the client. I think they're both faster. I just don't know what the benchmarks are for client. Yeah, sorry, Mike. It's the API I just said. Anyway, so our goal is to put together a GitHub action that basically replicates this, but instead of being a horrendous, unmaintainable bash script that's inlined in YAML here, we're going to do it with Effect directly. So the way this bash script works is it uses rollup. Mike, I know you told me you wanted me to evaluate some other tool for doing the bundle size analysis, but regardless of the tool that we use, RSPack. Okay, I can look at that. Maybe that'll be an interesting thing for us to try. So regardless of the tool that we use for computing the bundle size, it has to support deep scope analysis. And what do I mean by that? So for Kit and everybody else, when you do imports in JavaScript, most bundlers have a really hard time with this, where there's 2 styles of importing from Effect. I honestly, this one I think it's called namespaced, and this one is called like direct imports. I think I always forget like the terminology because I'm not smart. But in library code, we typically recommend using this style of import here because. But I meant it more broadly. We don't quite need it for this test. Rollup is more representative. Yeah. Okay. So anyways, most bundlers are able to handle this, right? Where, when you bundle a piece of code for Kit, when you bundle a piece of code with a bundler in JavaScript, usually bundlers are capable of figuring out what can be stripped from the bundle that's not being used. Like literally just removing dead code, basically doing dead code elimination. Versus like what is being used. With this type of import here, bundlers can mostly do a pretty good job. With this type of import, it's much harder for bundlers that don't support doing deep scope analyses to figure out what's dead code and what's not. So usually we recommend to people to use this style of import, the namespaced import, where you import the whole module and then namespace it to like an effect identifier, versus importing the full bundle from the effect root itself. In app code, this is probably fine because number one, most bundlers in app code like do a reasonably good job. But for library code, it's better to use this so that your library then becomes what we call like, in the JavaScript world, it's called tree shaking, but everybody else in the programming world calls it dead code elimination, right? Yeah, Mike made a good point on a podcast he was recently on. By the way, Mike, you did a great job on that podcast. It was a really, really good conversation, where he spoke about like in JavaScript we like to invent terms. And deep scope analysis plus like tree shaking is basically like dead code elimination, right? So we're very focused on this in the JavaScript world because obviously you want to shrink the bundle as much as possible. It makes your program run faster because it's less that the like like less imports and whatnot are easier. It also is like less code that you have to ship to the front end if you're running on the front end, whatever. So these bundle size tests that we do are important for allowing us to track that for our own library. But also like important to understand the difference between these two types of like imports, right? So we use a tool called Rollup with a Terser, the plugin for Terser, which is somewhere in my, where is it? I think it's in the Rollup config here.
It's in the middle there. There you go.
Here. We use Rollup with Terser to basically try to get the biggest like bang for our buck in terms of Rollup for getting like that deep scope analysis that we need and dead code elimination, and then Terser to basically give us what the hell is the term? Like, help me.
Minification?
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm really operating on all cylinders this morning. So we do basically gzipped, minified, and dead code eliminated bundle size analyses. And so the goal is to use Rollup programmatically from our effect GitHub action to compute bundle size for our PRs. And similar to what we're doing now, we compare bundle size for every commit to the head of the PR, right? So wherever the PR started, the PR's head branch, and wherever the PR is currently on whatever commit it is, or whatever the base branch, whatever the base commit of the PR is, and whatever the head of the PR is, that's what's being compared, right? Because we always want to compare like the most recent code changes. And so we continually update this comment every time commits are added to a PR to track like the percent difference that we've made.
Oh, great. So there's only one comment. It's not pending additional comments every commit.
Exactly.
Oh,
also,
that's nice.
Thank you very much, Sternal Reflex and Woman Fang, for the follows. Very much appreciated. So constantly being updated.
Does that give us more money? Are we rich now?
Yeah, we're rich now.
Oh, wow.
So anyways, getting back to the actual code, the first thing that I think would be really useful to do is to create an abstraction over the top of Rollup, which is the thing that we're using to do like the actual bundle size analysis. So basically taking this command here, which we can copy and pop into, maybe we'll just and take this command and turn it into something in effect code. So we need to be able to run like the Rollup piece, then we need to be able to do the gzip piece, and then compute the number of basically like, I think this WC-C I think is character count. Man, WC. Maybe it's bytes. It's bytes.
That makes sense.
It did make sense. So anyways, this I think is like a good first reasonable goal, is like to get an abstraction over the top of this first part of the command. Because I think the overall architecture for this GitHub action is going to be, and you can tell me whether or not you think this is stupid, Kit, but I think we can probably leverage the GitHub like checkout action to check out both the current head of the PR and the base ref for the PR, and then give them to the bundle size analysis plugin as like config options. I don't think like the other alternative is to like do the cloning and everything from within effect. But like, given that GitHub Actions already provides a nice way for us to do that, I don't really see the point.
Make it composable. Unix philosophy, whatever little tools. What would we get then? We would just assume that on the pod, our action runner, that we have both code bases, and we're just going to get a file path to each.
Yeah. We would basically pass a variable through the action, which we could kind of like show how that works. We would pass a variable through the action that would give us the path to both the head reference, which would be like the current commit, this, which clones like the current commit of the PR. And then we would also get a path to the base ref, so wherever the PR like started. And we'd get those two paths, and those are what we would use to like do the like building and bundle size analysis.
Yeah, that seems great. For now, we can see how that goes, but that sounds reasonable.
Cool. So let's maybe start with creating a roll-up service.
And just to sort of step back, your thought process is designing a new module, new feature. In effect, probably want to make a service for this, right?
Yeah, I think that services are a really great way to take functionality and box it up into a nice little package that you can then bring around to different parts of your code base. So especially in this particular case where we have an external library that we want to kind of package up and make usable, I think it's a really great use case for a service. People always ask us how to wrap external libraries with Effect or make like external APIs available through Effect. And I think services are a really great way to do that, because not only does all of that kind of complexity get packaged up into a nice, neat little box, but you can also make whatever you're doing testable in the future if you want by just plugging in an alternative implementation in your tests. My default is pretty much always to lean into a service for this type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, why I liked Zio, and for the same reasons Effect, is that it sort of simplifies, it removes that anxiety that I would often feel at the beginning of a project, which is like, okay, there's 1,000 patterns to follow. Which one do I take? I mean, it's sort of one very modular, very broad and general way of organizing applications. And it sort of removes the question of application architecture and just lets you sort of do something that you know is going to work and be very flexible in many situations and give you testability, dependency injection, all that stuff. So I agree.
Exactly.
My next question would be, okay, show us what's the best practices? I want to write some business solutions for a broad range of logistics providers. Like what do we do? How do we do it? Because there are a few different ways, right? There's from reading the docs, there's tags. I can make a tag, a context tag, and then have a live layer. Or there's this more maybe happy path version of a effect.service. What do you think?
Yeah, I think leaning into effect.service for the vast majority of cases is the right way to go, because effect.service, like in your applications, most of the time you're going to have a default implementation of said service, right? So if your service has a default implementation, there's really no reason not to use effect.service. There are some more whatever technical reasons why maybe you'd want to use context.tag or something like that. But I think in the 99% of cases in your app code, using effect.service is the way to go, because it gives you the ability to create a tag for your service, a layer for your service, and a default implementation in one pass. You don't have to have all of this boilerplate. The only annoying thing about effect.service is the declaration is verbose, but with the effect language service plugin, you get and also issue for your service. You also get the kind of autocomplete for services. So if we do a class roll up extends effect.service, you see this is actually coming from the effect OSP.
Nice.
So if you have the effect language service plugin installed in your code base, you can just let it generate the boilerplate for you. And then I tend to prefix my service identifier. So if we just import effect here, and we export this class, with effect.service, this first type parameter here is just the kind of, we call it like the self of the service. It's the self type. And this is useful for a variety of reasons internally that allow us to give you more type safeguard. I'm not going to go into like all the reasons why this is useful, but it allows you to have information from the static side of the like class that you're building up here, if you need it.
Certainly. And just from my understanding, coming not being a TypeScript native here, there is a certain amount of redundancy that's necessary in TypeScript because the TypeScript compiler is purely type checking. And its compilation step really just removes type annotations and then generates JavaScript. And even then, I think they're working on in the web of allowing the V8 to actually just ignore type annotations. So eventually, the TypeScript compiler doesn't even need to strip those off. It'll just be sort of no ops. So which means that there's no code synthesis. So unlike another language, unlike Scala, where you can have macros that generate some code for you, this really has to be. You might have to be a little more verbose at times because you want to give it both an identifier that you can't, generate statically, that roll up in a string, a name for logging, etc., tracing, and then to feed its own type back into that effect service thing. So, but is that kind of correct?
To some degree. So the type identifier here, one of the main reasons that it's useful, there's a bunch of reasons why it's useful, but one of the reasons is like on the static side of the class, or even the class in general, making sure that this type has the correct type. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do without this here in some circumstances. There's other reasons why we need this type parameter here, and we could like go into all of like the reasons that we have that, but it's just suffice to say it's required to like make certain things work. Okay. This identifier here is more for making sure that you don't have duplicate versions of the same service floating around in your app. Mm-hmm. So it's used when this service gets inserted into the effect context. Mm-hmm. That this identifier needs to be unique, globally unique across your app. Because, in Scala, you can use the type as the way to index into that map through like metaprogramming, right? By having, because the type information exists at runtime in Scala. In TypeScript it doesn't. So we need a globally unique identifier we can use to identify this service in the context map. Yep. Yeah. The string literal, like Mike said, is the equivalent in Scala of a type tag.
Cool.
And Mike also gave a good very summarized version of why this is required. The effect.service function can't know the type that it extends. So this is kind of like a hack. Like this thing here, this function that we use here, it can't know the type that it's extending. This. So plugging the service in here, like the type of the service, it's like basically a hack to get all this to work.
Cool.
Yeah. A long-winded explanation. You really, like, if you're using effect.service, don't need to know any of this except for the fact that this identifier needs to be unique. And that rule exists for any service you develop with effect. So even if you were using context tags, it's the same rule. This has to be globally unique. Yeah, and it's unsafe. You could put, whatever you want here, and it'd be fine.
So you just follow the pattern, learn the pattern, use the LSP plugin to get autocomplete. And maybe, I don't know if you guys are doing this at the moment, but something that I was thinking is, you have the effect MCP to get the docs, which is very useful, but I think clearly with AI, a lot of people are going the ways of these agents.md file or something like maybe just a really concise for LLM, like best practice enumeration would be useful. So it's just like define your services like this, follow this pattern. So even if you're not using the LSP plugin to autocomplete and Claude's writing your code for you, it'll know which of the, patterns to use in most cases, just like a Pareto principle, sort of LLM mini documentation that can be just always available.
Oh, it looks like Mike is making a little thing for Claude. Well, he linked.
Well, there you go. I don't know if there are established patterns of making that part of an MCP server. I think that's something in the future that they're, I don't know. I haven't looked at the protocol. They're adding all sorts of stuff for like built-in commands, maybe for built-in even agents, files. But that would be nice to have as part of the next version of Create Effect app. But anyway, back to 100%. The actual code.
No, I agree with you. I think that would be very useful. But yeah, kind of getting back here. So we have like our scaffold that we need for our service. We've got our unique ID. I tend to prefix my service identifiers with something and then the path to the actual service. So I'm using app here. Hey, X-Rated Next, how's it going? I tend to prefix it with app in app code, but usually it's just the module name. So I could even do like effect, package, metrics, action. But in this case, app is fine. And then you need the actual default constructor for your service, right? So there are a couple of different ways you can do the constructor here. You can have succeed, which is the equivalent of a constructor that accepts effect.succeed, right? You can do sync, which is the equivalent of a constructor that would use effect.sync. I would say in 99% of circumstances, I'm using the effect version of the constructor here, which allows you to run an effect. Mm-hmm. Or the scoped version, which is actually getting removed in 4.0, and we're handling the scope manually or internally for you. So really, in most cases, effect is going to be fine in 4.0.
Mm-hmm. And this allows you to grab dependencies and have that work and be part of the R parameter.
Yeah. This is like if you kind of think of it in JavaScript like a closure, this is where you can like close over all of the services that you need access to, do initialization logic, spin up background fibers, whatever. And then you return the like shape of the service that you want. So we could, here have like a, bundle method that we eventually declare somewhere in our service. And this is the shape of the service that we then have access to. Give me 1 second, Kit.
Okay.
Good.
Keep them at bay.
So anyways, yeah, here is like, I don't know like how much we're going to need to do up front for this roll-up service, but maybe like the first thing we can do is take a look at the programmatic documentation for roll-up. So roll-up documentation. So obviously roll-up is the JavaScript bundler that we're using to do what we want to do. And we kind of want to take a look at the programmatic API. We are currently using it in the GitHub action that we've defined as a CLI. But our goal now is to take that and turn it into like more programmatic code. So let's take a look here and see. So yeah, we're using it programmatically.
I see there's a JavaScript API there in the left-hand toolbar.
Yeah.
Sidebar.
Yeah. Let's take a look here. So probably going to need to install this package. Let's do that really quick. Looks like I've done this before. And how are they importing it? Like this. So let's just import. Okay. So we have a promise-based API. I wonder if there's a streaming API as well. Probably not. Let's just see here. So we run rollup with some input options. If you're using TypeScript or a runtime that supports it, you can write wait using a bundle. Okay. And don't need to close it. So we have something we need to close. So we can show off kind of the
resources.
We can show off the
acquire release scopes.
Yeah. Generate outputs. Looks like it. Output option list. You can create multiple outputs from the same input to generate different formats. Okay, we only need one format. And we're going to bundle.generate stuff. Okay. So I think I did some of this in this version of the tool. So without like having to reinvent the world, let's just take a look at this. We'll copy that. Oop, did I copy that? Hang on. Copy. And we'll put this in here. So I'm using a couple of different things in here, and maybe we can walk through this one by one. I'm going to comment this version out, and we'll go through it step by step. Our goal was to have this like bundle method down here, right? Mm-hmm. This is like kind of what we want to expose from our service. And ideally, you know, we're trying to expose a similar API to what we had here, right? So maybe I'll bring this over here. And like, this is our goal. And maybe this can be like, you know, our stretch goal over here. It's like doing the gzip thing and whatever. Mm-hmm. But the goal is to kind of mimic doing this, running a rollup on a file. So maybe like, you know, the bundle method, right, can take in an input file name or path, right, a path to a particular file. And then we'll do everything we need to do on that file to generate a bundle and get the size of that bundle, and we'll see if we can like incorporate like the gzipping and everything as well. So one of the really useful things in Effect, and I don't know if you've come across this yet, Kit, in your travels through Effect, but one of the really useful things is the kind of built-in tracing that you get out of the box. And using effect.fn to enable that tracing over functions, not just like effects, is a really useful pattern that I tend to follow in my services. So what do I mean by that? So we have this bundle method that we want to implement, right? So I'm going to start by declaring my effect.fn method, right? And effect.fn allows you to create traced functions that return effects. So you get two features out of the box. You get stack traces with location details if an error occurs. So by default with Effect, if I were to create this function like this, function bundle return effect.gen, blah, 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 or even maybe more similar to what we're going to do if I were to create it like this, right? So these are two ways in JavaScript of declaring basically the same function, right? Then inside the generator here would be all of our function logic. There's a problem here, which is that Effect has no idea, like when you actually call this function somewhere else, there's no way for us to, in the stack trace, if an error occurs, tell you like where this function was defined and like where it was called. There's not really a good way for us to give you that information. But if you use effect.fn instead to do the same thing, right? So we use effect.fn, we can actually incorporate that information into the stack trace with effect.fn, because effect.fn is a way for you to create a function that returns an effect, but you get a lot of other things out of it. So one of them is the stack trace. The other is you actually get an automatic span created for you when you give the effect.fn thing a name. So let's Go ahead, ask your question. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's really great. I don't think Zio has a perfect solution for this because they there is some automatic tracing and naming, but you don't wrap your functions like this. You just define normal functions, and this is sort of the same limitation, unless we did some crazy annotation macro thing. And so there's kind of a hacked together version of it, or you have to manually trace yourself. But in practice, I don't think many people end up doing that. I like this approach of just wrapping functions. I mean, it's a little boilerplatey, but it's not too different than the rest of TypeScript. And it has this regular pattern of similar to sort of the service generation above, right? Where you need to give a string identifier of the function. It's just really nice. And I've seen some of the output. It's really good. I've not seen, we don't get this good of tracing in Zio out of the box at all.
Yeah, I think with Zio, the only way the stack traces are even able to be stitched together to like handle that is through implicits, where the like stack trace, like the actual like trace is passed all the way through all the calls via implicits.
And that kind of gives you almost too much information. You're sort of specifically annotating these high level service methods. You're not going to get all this intermediate data of, there's a lot of care taken in Zio to try to strip out internal functions from your stack trace. You don't just see a whole bunch of runtime fiber context noise, but doing it this way, you sort of get to opt in and pick exactly which spans are meaningful. It seems really nice.
Yeah, so and effect.fn is pretty flexible. You can just pass it a regular function. Hi. And this type of this will be, you get this wrapper type, but this is what is returned. It's a function that returns an effect that gives you a string. We can give this parameters, right? We're gonna need a path. And now this will have a path as the parameter that you give it. You can use a generator in here if you want to. So if you have like more imperative logic that you need to run, this accepts generators as well. Hi, right? Still, well, now we're not returning the string, but like Mike is saying, we also have a lot of crap to hide internals, and sometimes it doesn't quite work well. But the worst case, you get a bit of crap plus good stack traces, which is true. We do quite a bit of work internally to hide as much internals as we can. So if you use a generator here, you don't have to deal with that awkward wrapper type. And then you can take it one step further. So this will still give you information about like the call site if stuff fails. Like this will still give you like call site information, whatever. But you can all take it a step further and do a first argument here where we can say like rollup.bundle, right? And now this effect.fn will actually automatically give you a span. With this in the end. So if you have a tracing provider wired up, you'll see this in the rollup.bundle as a span in the trace. And this information can also be included in the stack trace. So like instead of an anonymous, I forget what we do when we don't have a name, but instead of seeing like anonymous information, you actually get the name, this name that you give it here. And a lot of people have asked us, oh, well, why don't you just use the function syntax since these actually have a name, right? The bundle.name will be bundle. Why don't you just use this? The answer to that is because when you bundle, when you minify, this bundle name gets minified to something like X or Z or Q, right? So that name is not stable. In order to make the name stable, it has to be a string.
Yeah, without inserting your own sort of tooling or writing your own version of the compiler. That was a fun journey I read about. But okay, cool. Yeah, no, I mean that all makes sense. And that's very powerful. I only like it. I guess one quick question is: so you do prefix it with rollup.bundle. Obviously, you've already given the service the name rollup. Theoretically, would it be possible to just say effect.fn of bundle, and because you're sort of returning this from a service, it could sort of prefix with the service name, those annotations? Maybe that's too much work. Maybe that's not even possible. But I'm just noticing some denormalization there.
Yeah, it's not really possible because the the problem with that is that you're detaching the concept of like the service constructor from the methods that are actually returned from the service. So like this is actually a constructor for the service, right?
Sure.
Whereas like these, you could annotate the full constructor with like effects.log annotations.
I see.
And like, or you could do .span annotations, and you can give it like different annotations, but you can't like modify the name itself. You can give like things that are running within the service annotations, but you can't like modify like the name specifically, if that makes sense.
Okay, no, that makes sense, and it's pretty clear. I just wanted to be So usually the pattern is you give the service name dot the method name.
That's what I do, only because then like if I see this in an error trace or something, I could be like, there's my problem, right? Like it's in that service, in that method.
Okay. And one other stupid question, because it just crossed my mind, it's so small, is the app /rollup. Obviously, I see a lot of / namespacing. That's because that's kind of how it's done in TypeScript, right? With this file hierarchy. So you see the slashes for sort of module namespace, drill downs, and sort of dots for method calls.
I think that this is just a convention. It could easily just be this. But like a convention that we've adopted internally and that we see a lot of folks using successfully in production to keep these, because again, this unique, identifier has to be globally unique. We just see like an easy way to make sure the identifier is unique is to use the package name or like some identifier like app, and then just give the full path to the file, because you can't have two files sitting at the same path, right? Like in your code. So like you doing that is just like a really easy way to get a unique ID.
Cool. Makes sense.
And it's semantic. So that like you can glance at this and be like, oh yeah, okay. Okay. So another thing that I've done in the past, you can actually see that I did it here, is when I'm using like an external library, I'll just import the whole thing as like, I usually use the identifier API, and then like I'll wrap pieces of it. Let's go back to the docs and take a look at how we're supposed to use this. So build is going to be a thing where we call rollup with some input options. Then we generate outputs from this bundle object, this rollup build object. And then we have to close the bundle. So since we need to do the open close, like the acquire release here, we can't do it in the constructor. We can't lift it out here because it has to be done every time bundle's called, I think. Right? Yeah, it has to be done every time bundle's called. What we can do is we can use a method. Once we figure out all of our logic, we can actually use effect.acquireUseRelease to handle this without leaking a scope into the service method. Because if we were to use acquire release, we would leak a scope, and there's also really no reason to do that, since we're going to build the resource, in this case the bundle, we're going to use it, and then we're going to release it immediately when this method's done. So let's first, before we like get into that, let's see what the logic is going to be. So rollup is the method we need to call. We have some input parameters that we're going to need to define. There's a lot of stuff here. Wow. We can probably use, if I open up a second window here, package metric action old. Actually, even better. Go into small and look at the rollup config, because these inputs, I think, correspond to this config. I think to some degree, right? Like Yeah,
Could you
there's
possibly
output.
even just have a rollup config file and just specify a path to that instead of doing it programmatically? I mean, maybe it's better to do it programmatically. I mean, it is JSON either way, isn't it? So
It is, except for the plugins. So the plugins are actually like loaded dynamically. And so these need to be in, if we're going to be running rollup from code, we need the plugins to be running from code as well, I think.
okay.
We might not need it, but I'm going to see if we can do it from code like this. Okay. So let's see. The input is, I think, the input options. Input is what? A list of options. Input. The bundle's entry points, if you provide an array of entry points or an object mapping names to entry points, they will be bundled to separate output chunks. So, unless the output file options use the generate chunk and follow the output entry file names option. Okay. Separate output chunks. If you want to convert a set of files to another format while maintaining the file structure and exports into issues, let's turn every file into an entry point. Yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to turn every file into an entry point. So it's just going to glob them. What did I do before? Oh, God. I just passed in the string. This was like a very early version of this that actually didn't work very well. But so we read the directory to get the files, then we logged them. Then we got the base files. I don't think I was doing anything with rollup yet. So we can probably do whatever we want.
Okay.
I think let's start with just like the simplest thing, which is a single input, I guess, as a string.
And that's the entry point. That's the main .js, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's just weird because if we look at the command line command that I'm running, I'm just passing a file name in, which I don't really know how to do that from the programmatic API, but I think input is the way to do that. I think because when given as a command line argument, these are IDs. I think that the -I thing is what we want. I think the bundles entry point. Yeah, this is what we want. So we'll just do this for now. Keep it simple. We'll change it if we need to. We can define our onWarn from earlier. OnWarn from this side. OnWarn equals API.onWarn. You got input options. See if you can. API warning in blue with default. Warning in blue with default. Warning. Next. If warning.code equals yes is find Karen that's fine. We're just basically mapping like inputs that I can over to like actual code now. Not doing anything crazy. Plugins is going to be tricky.
Can we not just import those or install them and then import them? And it's sort of a similar
I think
manner?
that is what I was doing here. Yeah. I think. Yeah. We're going to just copy this because I know I went through some stuff to get this to work.
Okay.
For me. So I'm just going to copy these in. And we'll install them once we have them all. TM add at rollup plugin cursor rollup plugin yes builds at rollup plugin node resolve.
There's no NeoVim plugin to automatically npm install your imports.
Maybe there is. Why am I not getting there anymore with this? Let's see. Unused. Did this issue get closed? It did. Why did it get closed?
Oh, that's nice. I don't know what it means, but that's nice that something was fixed in the world. The world's better.
I don't know if it's actually fixed. It looks like this issue just got closed because it was stale.
Oh. Well, that makes more sense.
I don't know. We'll leave this in here for now.
Can you add another directive to ignore the other directive?
TS ignore.
Oh, that's messed up.
Man, can I just like do another one? Yeah.
How do you comment out a comment? It's the
this is the final boss of like TypeScript.
What if you add another character in front of it or wrap it in strings or something so its parsing doesn't work? Just add a.
We'll remove the at and just
there you
leave
go.
it.
Perfect.
Leave it at that. Okay, so we're doing some other stuff here now. So ES build target node 20. As of May 2025, the active LTS is node 20. Format ESM, because we're only targeting ESM now for 4.0. Output format ESM. What else do we have over here? Cursor. So we can use effects config module. Visualize equals yield config dot boolean visualize mangle not visualize. So I know you're probably familiar with this from the Zio world. But this is kind of like the way we grab config values in effect. We just yield them. You can just yield things. And we get a Boolean back, and if there's a problem, this will raise a config error.
You can just yield things the new merch? Is that coming EffectCon 2026?
I'm going to have to defer that to my boss. Whether or not we're getting, you can just yield things.
That probably won't fit on a hat, but maybe a t-shirt or something.
Personally, I think it should be merch, but pull up again, replace. We have a better hat slogan. import replace from at roll up plugin replace, and we're going to need is production. Oh no, I see what it's doing. This goes after node resolve replace. Process.env.node env. Okay, so that's all done. Cursor format, comments, false. And then we can say if visualize I guess we could do it the same way. What's
Yeah,
the name of this plugin?
I could have questions about the rollup config options, but I don't think it matters so much to the point there.
I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't even be able to answer them.
Oh, good. So yeah, we're making sure it's doing the same thing.
I'm literally just making sure the config is the same as it is currently, because I know Sebastian spent some time doing this.
Cool. And just to be clear about the config.string, you generally do that instead of making a separate rollup config service or what have you, and then including that maybe for these simple cases. And so it's just visualized that eventually there's nothing you need to provide, right? It's built in. So the default config provider will just look at your environment variables, and anyone who's trying to get visualized will just basically be able to steal them from that. So it'll automatically propagate as long as you have like .env or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of up to you how you structure a config. If you have a really complicated configuration object that you want to be able to pass around everywhere, you can certainly make a service out of it. I think that our general recommendation is put configs directly alongside where you need them, because you'll get a runtime error if you fail to provide them anyways. So just having a separate config object seems like overkill if you don't have like a tremendous number of configs. But I think, something that could be cool, I don't know if Mattia's already working on it, but like something that like sort of scans the application for these and like can like report out like configs that you are specifying would be cool. But the problem with that is that configs are not just always static like this. Like you can, because the config provider you're using can also influence this. So if I'm using a config provider that maps from constant case to snake case or whatever, like it'd be really hard to like generate a proper report of like what configs I'm using. But generally speaking, we say just put them in the service you're using them. It's easier.
Cool. And if it gets more complicated, would you namespace this as well?
Yeah. For if it got more complicated, like in an app, like if you look at my Twitch integrations app, I have namespaced configs for like Spotify integrations and Twitch integrations, and like so basically the services that depend on like Spotify versus Twitch are namespaced as such. So the environment variables are like structured that way and whatnot. So yeah, it really is up to you. It's your prerogative, but that is what we would recommend. Okay, so roll up. I think return to promise, if I remember correctly. Yes. So we're going to do a const bundle equals yield effect.try promise. Try is going to be this. Whoops. catch. Now we could use schema for errors, but I'm just going to use data for now to get tagged errors. Class rollup error extends data.
So as a newcomer, I, just to ask the annoying question, why not use the schema? Like, it seems like there's a bifurcation there. Like, you can use data sometimes, you can use schema sometimes. How do you make that determination?
We could actually just use schema. Data is like a less powerful version of schema.
Mm-hmm.
In that you only need to specify the type here. What am I getting? Oh, right. I don't have to do that here. Like, this is all you need for data.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like kind of a less powerful version of schema because you can't serialize, deserialize anything with this error. You can't use this error alongside schemas and whatnot. But we could easily use schema to represent the same thing. In fact, we probably should. Data is just equals, whereas schema has like the ability to actually take an error and serialize it over the wire.
Yeah, it seems like a good. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say the only reason why I use data here is because the rollup error that we're going to get here is probably a JavaScript error. And so it's not going to be really directly serializable, but schema will handle that for us anyways. So let's just do it like this. Rollup error. This is going to be app rollup error.
Yeah, as long as there's no tremendous downside, like picking the abstraction that covers the most cases and is, the highest level and works the best. And for instance, using effect.service instead of the context.tag and et cetera, the more lower level variants. If those high level variants work and don't really have downsides, maybe we should just, it removes a nuance, it removes the decision points. It's probably going to be easier to teach people if there's just just use schema, don't use data. Data is an implementation detail. You probably don't need it. Schema solves all those problems and more.
You can skip the first literal, we'll use the tag. Right. Forgot about that. And if I remember, Mike, is schema.unknown the appropriate thing to use here? It is, right? Because I'm getting an unknown back.
You also called it cause there. Is that, it's probably not, that's not a cause. That's not an effect cause. You just are calling it that, right? Because it'll eventually be, should that just be called error or something to disambiguate the...
So I'm going to ask Mike a question here, which I can't remember because it's been a while since I dug through that area of the code base. But Mike, if I recall correctly, cause is a special property on these errors. If you have a cause, it will it traverses like the cause as well. Like when you actually render, cause is a default in JavaScript for errors, so they get rendered, right? It's a special property. So yes, in effect, there is a cause data type, but we're not working with one of those right now. We're working with just like an unknown error. Because in JavaScript, anything can be thrown. Like you can throw literally anything. So cause is like a special property in errors that, like Mike said, get rendered properly.
Okay, cool. So it's a JS built-in thing. It just happens to be named the same. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, not the greatest, but this is what we have in JavaScript. So, what else do we need to do? So this gives us a bundle, a build. Gives us a rollup build, which eventually we're going to need to close, which also returns promise. So maybe just, we'll try promise this again.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, these two will be wrapped with an acquire use release. They don't really need to be, but we can just do that for cleanliness, so that we are guaranteed to run that finalizer.
Yeah. And just to, could you specify why they might not need to be, or what that would do?
I mean, in this case, to avoid leaking an open handle to this, whatever this build thing is under the hood that we have to close.
Sure.
It probably is best for us to, when we're done, wrap this in an acquire use release to make sure that that release action is called, even if we fail for some reason. But we could wire that. We could wire this in such a way that like we wouldn't need it. It's just gonna like we want to guarantee that this close is called, even if we fail. So using acquire use release is probably what we're gonna want.
Sure. I mean, maybe it's good to show off the best thing to do in general. Obviously, in the context of this short-lived CI script, it's not going to be. It's not like this is part of a long-lived server. So even if you leak a file handle, I think when the process closes, will that all be cleaned up for you? Maybe it won't be. But I guess that's a question I have. Maybe it's not necessary in simple scripts, but nonetheless, it's good to show off.
It probably will be. I have no idea what under the hood this thing is that we have to close, but since they recommend us closing it, we might as well guarantee that it's closed, right?
Hell yeah.
Then now we can actually remove this. Oops. This. Are you unhappy? Missing roll-up error. All right. This has to be this. Because the other way to fix this would have been to just or die. Which maybe is better. Like maybe doing this is better. But the point is that a finalizer can't fail in this case. Like it has to be a never. So if it does fail, that's a defect. So the type error we were getting here for the audience is saying that if effect void rollup error never is not assignable to void never never. Rollup error is not assignable to never, meaning that like this can't fail. This should never fail. The type of the finalizer here, the release action, should never fail. Otherwise, we risk leaking this resource. So if it does fail, we need to elect that to a defect to indicate that this is something that should blow up the program so that we don't start leaking whatever resource this is. If that makes sense.
It's really to motivate you to try your best to make it not fail, and to not just let it propagate or die is kind of, I guess, all right, that's the last resort. Maybe you could, I mean, it doesn't matter in this case. I don't think there's really anything you could do. But if it's another situation, maybe you have multiple options to try increasingly,
Right, like maybe here you could retry a bunch of times, right? Like you could retry, build a close, whatever. But in reality, probably whatever's going on under the hood here, if in the context, again, getting back to the fact, if this is like a CI script, like we can just die and like we'll rerun the CI. But if this were like an application, you probably want to do something more robust here. And again, we could just do effect.promise and like,
you wouldn't get the roll-up error is the problem there. You would just get the cause, the underlying. It wouldn't be wrapped in our nice wrapper.
So at least we know now that this is coming from like a roll up. And if we add special properties here, like maybe we have like a special message that we want to put on here, like those will now be present in the release handler as well. Cool. But this is just like us being like very overkill, diligent about making sure the behavior is what we expect.
Yeah.
So now we have a bundle method that is going to be an effect that doesn't return anything in the current moment, can fail with a roll-up error, and has no dependencies at the moment. So we've got this build thing here. This thing has stuff on it. Watch files, generate. I wonder if I'm like thinking, I wonder if because of the way this CI thing is structured, if we can't just like lift the build of this bundle thing, this thing, the thing that we're doing here, this roll up thing that we're creating. I wonder if because of the way that the GitHub action is going to be structured, if we can't just lift this into the service constructor and make this a scoped thing, because it looks like this generate thing is what we're gonna
call this multiple times, you're saying, and we might just rebuild roll up multiple times.
Maybe we only need to build once, but I might be wrong because
it looks like we could just give each file path and just do it all in one go.
Yeah, the only problem is this thing looks like it needs all the inputs up front. I was just trying to see if there was a way. We could, when using the CLI, multiple inputs can be provided using the option multiple times. Yeah, I was just trying to see if there was a way we could pass inputs dynamically, but I don't think there is. I think it looks like it needs all the inputs up front. Which means that what I was going to say we could do is probably not possible. Because like we're going to pass it essentially a path to a bunch of like scripts to build, or we're going to pass it many paths. So, bundle probably will. I don't know. We're gonna have to think about this a little more, but I think it needs the inputs up front to be able to properly handle this. So I don't think we can lift this out because this is the constructor that we would lift out, but it needs the inputs.
I see. Yeah. So we can't swap those out on the fly. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we could do is pass the inputs through some other service that is like the configuration for the inputs, but like I don't think we need to over abstract this at the moment.
I mean, maybe when we're done with this bit, it could be nice to trace span just the construction of the API rollup and see, like, I mean, maybe that doesn't take any time at all, or it would be pointless to. I mean, everything is kind of contrived here. We're obviously, as you mentioned, being extra diligent just to be representative of what one would do in a real application instead of just saying, yeah, whatever, figure it out yourself. We want to make good examples of how to do, best practices and all that stuff. So would that be something we might be able to do? Is like add a log span around the construction of the rollup object and see like how expensive is that anyway? Does it matter that we're going to do it once per file, or should we really try to lift that out and share it amongst all files?
No, we can definitely like trace this once we wire this into a CLI. But I'm just looking at like what I did previously. I think what we're going to do, we'll leave it like this for now. And then like you said, we'll kind of like trace this and see where we end up. So I don't think we need to pass any options to generate right now because we're not passing any options to generate on the CLI. We're just passing it the path to the input configuration, but there's no so asset file names, chunk file names, entry file names. These are all like output properties. That specify like the format of things and whatnot, which I don't think we need to specify up front. So we can leave the options blank.
Sure.
What do we get back when we do this? Promise of output. So output. We're going to need to do this again.
And I think noticing a little bit of duplication here, though maybe the smallest amount. I have seen, I think in Ethan Neiser's video, this use pattern just to abstract this sort of repeated boilerplate of when you wrap a third-party non-effectful library. Is that something that we might want to
do? The API that we would wrap is probably like the use pattern is useful when you have a single like client that you construct, and then you're repeatedly calling that client. In this case, we're like constructing this like thing here, which might fail. And then we're calling that thing again here, which might fail. And then we need to close that thing here, which might fail. Like we could abstract over this and do a use pattern on this. If you get rid of these two try promises here, but we'd still end up with this one. Unless we had a separate helper method that also like wrapped the generate thing somehow.
I see. Yeah, maybe what we could do is, if this is even worth it, like looking at the sort of the pattern of what differs here, it's really like we have effect, try, promise, try, catch, and the catch blocks are all the same. So just like some very basic wrapper that does the try promise and just put some arbitrary code inside of the try block and wraps the error. Not that that's terribly useful here, but
no, I mean it's always useful to keep things in mind, like for that type of stuff, like for potentially making this better. Like we could abstract over that. I think that Mike, what does Mike say? You could add a normal function like use rollup promise and automatically wrap the. Yeah, I could do that too, right? Like abstract over the whole thing, like use rollup promise, which whatever. Like, we could even do that right now. Use rollup promise.
Just want to make everything nice and dry, you know? After 2 hours of streaming, I'm thinking about dryness, and I'm out of LaCroix.
So it's going to look something like this, where we have an F or our promise that is a method that returns a promise, and it's going to be a return an effect that gives us a roll-up error. Never, I don't need the never. Try promise. We can even just call this try.
Ooh, beautiful.
Try.
I do love all this destructuring assignment and whatever this would be called.
New roll up there. Pause. Okay, where did I make typos? Oh, try is a keyword. I can't use that.
Backtick try? No.
I mean, like, yeah, you can do this, but fine.
So underscore is the way to escape keyword over shadowing in TypeScript.
There's tons of ways. It's one way. It's one way. You could do it any number of ways.
Cool.
As long as it's not the same keyword, then you're fine.
Translate it to Italian. Use the Italian word, etc.
Translate it to Italian. Trovare in Italian, I think. Mike, can correct me if I'm wrong.
Do you speak Italian, Maxwell?
I attempt to speak Italian. I attempt to speak Italian. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
It doesn't work. You get an error.
He speaks funny Italian. Yeah, exactly. Flatten this out, maybe.
Now it's looking. Look how concise. Look how dry.
Whoa.
There's uput. It's sad about uput.
It's all about the uput. Effetto da trovare. Promessa. Yeah. We should rewrite effect in Italian and see what it feels like. Effect trovare promessa. I don't know. It looks pretty good.
Effetto versione 4.
It would be. It would need more Italiano disco. Okay, so we've got our output. What is this? This is rollup output. Output dot output.
Oh,
Okay. And this is a bunch of chunk. So we've got a bunch of chunks. This is a non-empty chunk of either chunks or assets. I believe I had figured this out the last time I did this. You got Spotify closed. Spotify does not work with Riverside because of like a number of reasons. I like can't figure out how to get it to work. So Kit and I actually spent a half hour before this call trying to see if we could get ping.gg set up to allow us to stream together through my OBS so we could have Spotify. But I couldn't get his audio to stop popping. I had everything working except for his audio was popping. So I need to I didn't want to delay the stream any longer. Speak with Theo. Yeah. I don't think it was a ping.gg problem. I think it's my OBS configuration problem. So I need to just
I'm also very
that.
plosive. I'm extremely plosive as a person.
Indeed. All right. We need to get something running because we're almost at we're over 2 hours streaming. So we've got.
Are we going to time out? Is our process going to get killed? Twitch will shut us down.
No, I just feel like I don't like to go too much over 2 hours because then I feel like I don't get anything else done in a day.
Yeah.
So I feel like I had a nice little thing here that I want to leverage with streaming. I don't think I need streams to do this, but it was nice to use the gzip stuff through the stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a stream from iterable output dot pipe stream dot pipe through channel. Now I forget which of these. It's the chunks that I want access to. So I need to do a stream.filter output.type equals chunk. We're going to pipe this through a channel that we're going to create. No, sorry, we're going to use the import from effect platform node. So we have platform packages kit that npm add effect platform and platform node. So we have platform packages that allow like us to provide platform independent abstractions over platform specific APIs. So for example, like in effect platform, which is our agnostic package, we have like abstractions for like file system and a few other things. Like there's some good stuff in here, HTTP, blah, blah, blah. And then you can provide platform specific implementations when you actually run your code via one of our platform packages. It's kind of like the AI packages. You have your like agnostic based AI code, and then you plug in a provider down the line. Same idea.
Cool. And it's just services under the hood, basically.
It's all services under the hood. Yeah.
What a good example.
Some of the stuff that we expose from those packages is platform specific and needs to be. So for example, we have helpers for working with node streams. So streams from like Node.js to allow you to convert them to effect streams. So we can do a node stream here, dot pipe through simple. We're going to take the stream that we're building up right now, which is for the audience, a stream of API.output chunk. And
a quick question about TypeScript is, does filtering also refine the types, narrow the types?
Yes.
Well, oh, that's great.
If there's so the way we designed our like filter API is if there is a refinement, it will use the refinement. So if this were just like a Boolean and TypeScript couldn't figure out how to refine this,
Sure.
it would not refine. Like it also
Amazing.
accepts predicates, but if it can refine, it will.
That's
and you can force
really cool.
You can force refinements by saying output is API dot. Yeah, the new filter module in 4.0 that Tim is building is really cool.
Pre-rendered chunk or no output chunk? I see. And that'll be type safe, right? If you change chunk to asset, this will fail to compile.
I don't have anything that's expecting an output chunk right now. Output asset.
Oh, I mean, just sort of the agreement between the type. I was wondering if that would fail right there, but it seems to not. Okay,
it doesn't. So the type assertion here in TypeScript is not technically type safe. It's a way for you to expose a type safe refinement from a function. So usually we provide like these refinements. When we do have these refinements, we call them type guards in our libraries. We do like the most minimal amount necessary to make this assertion true. But you don't need this here. Like this will narrow automatically.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, like Mike said, type guards are by default unsafe because there's no real way to make them safe. But generally speaking, TypeScript is good enough most of the time to infer it. So in this case, it's inferring, I think.
Okay.
So
I guess we'll see when we try to use it. Yeah.
We're going to use the create gzip helper from the node stream module, I think. Hang on, import from node. So node is like the built-in package, and I need to add oh god, what did it just do? Don't format my JSON. Yeah, cannot hide the. I'm gonna fix that. So what I just did there, Kit, for those not in the know, TypeScript doesn't care what runtime you're using most of the time. It has some node specific stuff, but like the types for node, you have to install separately. So at types, like you can publish type only packages, and those generally, like most libraries publish types alongside their code, so that you don't have to install a separate types package to do that. But in the past, when TypeScript didn't exist, libraries, or when types were not easily publishable, or if a library already existed in JavaScript and people wanted to publish types for it, you could create a types library and publish it to something called definitely typed, which is a repository for TypeScript definitions. And this repository is enormous. So I'm not going to open the thing, the source of it, but the Node.js types are published separately. So in TypeScript, you can have this types array, and if you put node in here, it will include the node. It will look for at types, and it will include this one. So like in my package JSON, in the dev dependencies, I've now installed the types for node. I'm telling TypeScript, hey, load the types for node. Right, load these types. So now when I go back here, this import now resolves, and I'll get types. Create. So I'll get types for this. But if I were to tell TypeScript now, unload this, don't load these types, it's going to fail to compile. I get a type error. It doesn't know. Hang on. LSP restart. Oh, now it's loading the types. Pitiful. Maybe just because I have them installed. But anyways, usually you have to do this. TypeScript's weird. Anywho, back to what I was trying to do. What I want to do here is I want to encode. So we're going to encode the code contained in a chunk, and then we're going to gzip it by taking. So here we filtered to only have chunks. Now we're going to stream.map chunk.code. Okay. Now we have code. So it's going to be happy that it's a string, right? And that should be fine. We could also do stream.encode text. Oops.
Could you quickly
Encode
hover over
text.
chunk when you get a chance? I just want to see that it is indeed chunk and not the union. Oh, beautiful. Mwah. It's filtering and type refining. I love it. That's so nice.
Yeah. So we could make sure that gzip is going to get bytes instead of string, even though it works with both by encoding the text to make sure that we're going to get a uint8 array, so byte array of chunks for gzip. And then
pipe through simple and the create gzip. What is that returning exactly? That pipe through simple then is expecting, because that's a.
So pipe through simple is a method that comes from our like specialized node stream thing. It's basically a module to make working with stream APIs from Node a little bit easier. And pipe through simple. Excuse me. Wow. If we look at the actual type definition here, takes a duplex stream. So Node.js has readable, writable, transform streams, duplex streams, which I think duplex are readable and writable. Yeah. So pipe through simple is like just the simplest API over the top of a duplex stream. It takes a stream of either string or uint8 array and pipes it through this duplex stream. So like all of these inputs will go through the duplex stream and will return you like a byte array.
I love it.
Like, yeah. And the
Very
simple
cool.
naming, I think, has to do with the fact that simple does not force you to handle the error. It'll raise a platform error for you if there's a problem. Whereas if you use pipe through duplex, which is a more like specific API, it'll give you the ability to control the error that's output, and it'll also give you the ability to control options that are passed to the underlying duplex stream. So like I just use this one because like I don't need to control any of that. I'm happy with the error types it's going to raise. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. That's great.
We could easily do pipe through duplex and then specify like what are the other things we need to do, like on error. So we would get the error back here, and we could use a roll up error, for example, right? So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do new roll up error cause. Cause, and then we can also specify options if we want to, but we don't need any. So here we'll use the more specific API to get a better error type.
Cool.
And now we should, if we take a look at what's going on in this pipeline, have a stream, a byte array stream. So a stream of bytes, potentially a roll-up error and no requirements. And now we can run this stream. And the goal of this stream is basically to calculate the size of the bundle, right? So we can use stream.run bold starting from 0. And this is going to be our total bytes. And this is going to be our bytes, or maybe chunk bytes. And we're going to just do chunk bytes plus total bytes. And this is going to be length, I think.
Yep. Oh, streaming is beautiful. A beautiful thing.
It really is. And I think we can even do this one step further. From iterable effect. This is an effect that creates an interval. I mean, do this.
I see. Throw that in there.
Dot type.
I don't mind the intermediate assignment necessarily, but
Me either. Like, I think that's fine. Like, I'm just saying, like, this is another option that we
sure.
could have.
No, totally.
I think this is clearer, but and then
one quick question about the semantics here: is this going to like pipeline? Because there's some IO stuff, right? And from my research into JS event loop and stuff, that's going to be potentially obviously not run on the main event loop, but by whatever integration, I guess the node is going to run those in the background. The create gzip stuff, in particular, probably the what else exactly? I'm not sure, but yeah, will this if the output contains multiple chunks, will it potentially gzip multiple things simultaneously, or does it block by default? I'm not sure if there's some settings for allowing a certain amount of pipelining to occur, or if that just happens by default, or if that doesn't make any sense at all, what I've said.
No, I think what you're saying makes sense. I know from the way that we're going to be using this API that we're only going to be building a single file at a time. So the way it's going to work is we're going to get a file, right? It's going to be like basic.ts, and it's going to have like some effect code. Rollup is going to bundle that file and create a bunch of maybe one, maybe many chunks, right? It's kind of up to Rollup how it bundles stuff. But we don't really care how many chunks it creates. We're going to want it to gzip all of them, and then like compute the byte size of all of them. So what's going to happen here is for every chunk, we're going to get the code and code it, and then we're going to run it through the same gzip stream. So everything's going through gzip for that file that we're bundling. So I don't really know if I answered your question, but the reason I know this is reasonable is because we're bundling, and even if we get multiple chunks, we still want them all to go into the same gzip. Like we want them all to be gzip together so that we can compute the like total bytes.
I see. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So this gzip thingy is going to create is a gzip. It's kind of like the same thing in Zio, where you guys had you guys had like maybe some better like built-in primitives for gzipping and things like that. But I think if we look at, of course, it doesn't want to open the link.
No, I mean, I see what you mean. I was thinking if it's creating a single shared gzip pipeline that is stateful, and it's important for all the text to be routed to this same create gzip. We're not like running one gzip process per chunk. So never mind. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, Mike mentioned Z pipeline. Yeah, I liked Z pipeline. Some of the stuff in Z pipeline I really liked, particularly the stuff about like zlib abstractions. I thought were really cool. Yeah, like the inflate, deflate, gzip, gunzip, etc. So, anyways, this is now an effect that's going to produce us our byte count or a rollup error, because we're now run fold will actually run the stream to completion, and now we'll produce our byte count. We can delete this, and maybe for now we'll just byte count. I'm sorry. What I want to do is like why is my brain not working?
We need the back ticks.
For now, let's just do this so we can like see what's going on. So this bundle method now should give us an effect that's void because we're just logging out the results, a potential rollup error, and no never for the requirements.
Could we very possibly quickly try to run it on just a dummy file?
Yeah, that's what I want to do here.
Okay,
so
cool.
Let's do rollup equals yield rollup. We're gonna do this, and let's change this to. If this is gonna break anything, module. So I mentioned before that effect.service gives you an implementation by default, and we expose that off of the. So rollup is the tag, right? The service tag yields to get an instance of the service, but then you also have to provide the layer, and that default constructor gets basically this default property is automatically generated off the constructor you specify to give you a layer which produces rollup, can fail with a config error, and doesn't require anything.
That's beautiful.
So now we can just do main layer.
Yeah, in Zio there really wasn't a super opinionated way of doing this. I mean, I had opinions, there were opinions, but it wasn't built into one constructor like effect.service, which I think is really nice.
Why am I... Okay, hang on. All right, so that rollup.bundle.
Then we need to just make a simple file in this directory. Can we do ourselves? Can we reference ourselves to save a step?
That's a good idea. You can try just this. I don't know if this will work. Let's use the full path to this file. We really need to fix the as affecting. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. I wish it would just simplify.
All right, and this should log and running. Cool.
If it works. I don't know if rollup is going to be able to find the dependencies, but let's try it. Oh no. PNPM TSX. So TSX is like a little tool, not a little tool, it's a great tool that allows you to on the fly run TypeScript files. We don't really need it anymore because Node can run TypeScript files by default, but I think TSX is a great UX. So I still use it for now. Question, do you have to yield star the stream? That's the official. Great question. Let's quickly take a look at that before we run this. Why am I getting errors? I do need my TS expect error. Okay. Do I need to yield the stream? So I'm not technically yielding the stream. I'm yielding an effect because runFold turns this stream into an effect. It runs the stream, right? So if you look at the next thing in this pipeline, it's actually an effect. If I didn't, I do have to yield the stream. You're totally right. He's telling me because I'm like an idiot.
So we were annotating with. I'm surprised the LSP didn't pick that up.
I am too, actually.
I wonder if. Yeah.
But Mattia, I think the reason why I'm not picking it up maybe is because I'm using it here. What if I get rid of this?
Sure. What's assignment never used, which is different. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Reproducer. We have a minimal reproducer here.
It's an effect assigned to a variable. It's a valid case. Yeah. Whatever. Minimal error.
That's a good point. We might pass it elsewhere. That is one of the aspects of effect systems that will eventually bite everyone in every situation. For a moment.
Oh, I need to set a default for visualize to false. Config dot with default false.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me run this over here.
Yeah, maybe we do just need to make a simple hello world file.
So let's just see what the error is. Expected : but found production.
Well, that would be the replace thing, right?
Yeah, this.
Can we comment that out for now?
Yeah.
Do we need all these plugins just to test the... Okay.
Missing export.
WebSocket. Yeah, maybe we should just make a very simple hello.ts.
Yeah. Let's replicate this. Where are we?
Well, that would even import effect. Do we want to just do one that doesn't require any imports to start with, just to make sure, like, in its simplest form it works?
Since you have type module, you should export. Actually, let's try that really quick first. I think that Etsy official is onto something here. I don't know if this will fix it. I'm gonna. No. What we should do is bundle. I want to see if this works with just like a very basic version of effect. Natia, thank you very much for the subscription. Really appreciate that. That is, thank you for supporting the stream. Main. You're only supporting me because I'm finding bugs in your LSP.
Hey, all right. Beautiful. We did it.
This is actually really interesting because, so the basic effect, right? This in small, right? If we look.
We did turn off that one setting. I'm not sure if that's anything meaningful.
I don't think it is because we didn't used to have it on. Sebastian just enabled it. And it doesn't do anything in effect. So, but let's turn it back on. Let's see.
Oh wait, but isn't this effect? Are you using small or are you using effect 3?
No, I'm using effect 3.
Okay.
But let's go back here. Let's go back here. Let's see if this works. If it doesn't, I'm gonna have to figure out why. Okay. So what's interesting about this is if this can be believed, which we should compare to the CLI, right? So we should do a npm rollup dash c. Let's copy the rollup config to an actual rollup config. Rollup.config.ts. And we can copy the one from here. Rollup.config. Why can't I ever see this? It's got to be a JS file. Okay. Fix that
I might have to roll out actually. To some lunch has arrived a few minutes ago, and it is cooling in the air conditioning.
Yeah, feel free to head out. Thank you very much for joining, Kit.
Yeah, that was a blast. I hope my stupid questions made everyone stay better, and you can feel better about yourselves in comparison. But yeah, man, let's do it. Let's do it again soon.
Sounds good, kid. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye, everybody.
We're not going to go for too much longer, folks. I just want to see if we can source. What I'm trying to figure out here is. Okay, so this is not far off from what we're reporting in our main. I got to figure out why there is a difference, though. It's kind of weird. 34,500 versus 34,462. Like rounding up. If anybody sees anything weird I'm doing here, let me know. But what I find interesting about this is that this basic example from 3.0, that means that the minimum bundle shrank from almost 35K to 5K. So we shaved 30K off the minimum bundle size for just importing effect, basically, which is pretty wild. I knew we made a big impact, but that's pretty wild. So in 4.0, things are getting, I mean, we knew we made a big impact, but do I have Mangle off? No, I'm wondering why this is rounding and this is not. Here. And also, Mangle is off only when we have visualized set to true. So if I were to like export visualized equals 1, npm tsx source main. Oops, I don't need to export. This should open up the visualizer, which it did in my browser. Hang on, I'll show you all. So you can see like all the stuff we're getting just by importing effect. Well, actually, I think this is like the full module. I don't know if this is the file in question. I don't know how to navigate this thing. Basic. Anyway. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I just got to figure out why I'm getting rounding here and not here, it seems. What's effect built in? It's just TypeScript. Effect is just plain TypeScript. You can use it anywhere that JavaScript runs. Anybody see anything dumb I'm doing here? Like, why am I getting weird rounding errors? Let's log out. Console.log total bytes chunk bytes dot length is chunk bytes. I accidentally hit visualize again. Hang on. Unset visualize. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that I'm not getting the same as this. What does stream .encode text do? It takes text and turns it into bytes. I mean, we could remove this and just let gzip handle the text. But it basically just creates a text encoder and encodes text. Should be the same output. I just put this in here for... it literally doesn't need to be here because gzip, create gzip handles string input by default. But I left the encode text in here. Yeah, I just wonder why I'm getting a different output with CLI versus not. It's kind of strange. I'll have to look at, like, instead of just looking at the byte count, I'll have to look at the actual, like, bundled output and see if I'm getting something vastly different. Create gzip has some config to allocate byte chunks of specifics. That's actually a good point, Mike. I think I did run into this. I think you are 100% right. There's a chunk size, and I think that the last time I looked into this, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that whatchamacallit, gzip on the command line has a different chunk size. Let me look. What is the default chunk size for gzip? Man, hold on. Sliding window of 32K. The default is 16K. You're absolutely right. Let's see. No, the alignment is still rounding. Wait. Chunk size and what? Try using the exact thing that Google GPT told me. Yeah, no. But you see that right here. And this has been consistent. Like, this is the chunk size. Let's look. Node gzip. Maybe a trailing white space is triggering one more chunk. It might be. But, like, it is pretty annoying that... See example. create gzip, create gzip. Can I Node.js use compute gzipped size? Yeah, I know how to do it via the command line. I want to know how to use it in Node. Maybe we need to give the full text to gzip. Maybe I could try that. Does /r/n have an M? I have no idea, Etsy. So we could try let's do this. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, Mike. Actually, we could just do this in one pass. Accumulator current. If current.type equals what the heck? Current.type equals chunk. Accumulator plus equals current.code. Otherwise, return accumulator. Then we could probably just still do. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I don't want to figure out how to run gzip manually, so we'll just do stream.succeed full text dot pipe. The rest of this. Keep things as similar as possible. It's still rounding. That's annoying. Also, just while we're sitting here, import. Wait, why am I getting multiple chunks? I need to not encode text. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading your chats after I figured the same exact thing out. So, my bad. Node runtime, node run main. I just want the pretty logger. Result equals gzip sync full text. Result.length. Same thing. Chunk size 32 times 1024. Is the length of the buffer the wait a minute. That's a good question. Get buffer byte length. There's a byte length method. Oh God. I think it's because it pre-allocates the buffer. Hang on. Length and bytes of the array. Load zlib get byte size. Info true. What is this? Just to avoid going crazy, maybe write it to a file and check the size of the. Yeah. Let's try. That. It is exactly 34,500 bytes. Why you do this? Why you do this to me, Node? Oh, this isn't going to tell me anything. I don't know why I did that. All right, Mike, time to go crazy. Okay. Buffer.byte length. Node, zlib, gzip. Avoid rounding. I want the chunk size. Try using a Claude, yeah. In Node.js, how can I accurately, i.e., to the exact byte, whatever, compute the byte, the size, the gzip archive created with the node one. Yeah, I don't know, folks. This is pretty weird. My gzip stream always produces us. Write the bundle output to a file and g. Okay. Sure. Okay. Well. Oh, I did something dumb. Oh, God. No, it says it's a string. Yeah, so if I write all the full text, gzip it, word count, I get the exact byte size. Freaking node. What if I make the What if I make the chunk size really tiny? No, it gave me. Maybe word count is not the byte. Like, no, word WC-C, man, WC, gives me the number of bytes in the input file. Hmm. iCloud code on the file directly. Okay. You trust that? Yes. I am trying to compute the byte size of a gzip archive that I am creating with Node.js's zlib module. The code in question is in the at source. Sorry, at source rollup file. The code produces an exact byte length, byte size of 34,500. Whereas if I use gzip on the command line to perform the same operations, I get an exact length. I don't know what it was, 34,000. What was it? 462. I'll need to adjust the code to achieve the same behavior as on the command line. Level? Sure. Compression level to 6. If this is the answer, I'm going to be pissed. Okay, not the answer. That did not. Wait. Then we check. I got to start like being mean to Claude. Right, Mike? You can test your adjustments by running npm tsx source main.ts and let's change this to just do a simple console.log result.log. Yes, this, nah. Yeah, this is crazy. Deflate. Sure. Just keeps getting the same output. ChatGPT tells me to use level 9 and file name empty. Okay, we can try. Let's try it. Const result equals gzip sync full text level 9. I don't know how to set the file name. Let's try with level 9. Whoa. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay, so let's let it keep going. Go back to the gzip usage and use compression level gzip command line default compression level. Janutar uses level 9 for gzipping, but what about gzip? Gzip-L will give you the compression ratio, but there's no way of finding the compression level used. 6 screen others. Let's use 9. A level of 9. Also try to get All right, so we're on to something here with the compression level. $34, $412. Yeah, okay, we're now only 50 bytes off. Sure, keep trying the compression level. I think we're probably just going to use level 9 for... If it's the best compression, we might as well use it for testing. Yeah, let's just use a compression level of 9. So let's get rid of all this for a moment. Let's put this back. And let's put this back. Let's get rid of this. Remove the braces. And here, we're going to say level 9 for best compression. Do this. Oop. Oop. All right. Yeah. Okay. I think using the best available compression level is probably what we want anyways, so level 9 seems fine. Is that actually the best compression level? Level. All right. So that seems fine. I think we'll probably leave it at that for today. I've been fooling around with this for long enough. It's already 2 o'clock. I'll publish this repository. Sorry, I just shook my desk like crazy. I'll publish this repository a little bit later when I have a few minutes. But I feel like this was pretty good. We got Kit. We got some feedback from Kit, which was great. Always good to like have the, those questions being asked, because the context that we have is like, sometimes problematic for not explaining things properly. So I think having his input was great. Etsy, thank you very much for joining the stream. We'll try to, I know it was quite a bit since I streamed independently last. So I'll try to be better about streaming this week. Probably won't go as long as I did today for the rest of the week. This was a longer stream. But yeah, so I'm going to head out, folks. I'm going to go ahead and give somebody a raid. We can take a look at who we can raid, but so let's raid Chell. Thank you all very much for joining the stream and watching. We'll do smaller or similar size, same category. And maybe we'll raid Beats again. Thank you all very much, folks, for joining. I'll see you folks the next time. Have a wonderful day. Cheers, everybody.